What's up everyone, my name is Marie, welcome to my channel and welcome to another speed build. So for today's video I am sharing a base game only build. This build uses only base game, so I didn't use any expansion packs for this one. And it is a build of a couple of apartments in the world of Willow Creek, which of course is also a base game world, obviously. And yeah, I thought it'd be fun to build some base game apartments. Ever since we got the For Rent expansion pack, we've been able to build our own apartments, townhouses, duplex homes, whatever. Of course, we've been able to do that since before then, but now with For Rent, you can actually have them be functional in a way where you can have multiple households living in different homes on the same lot, essentially. Now, of course, this isn't using any packs or anything, so I didn't use For Rent for this one, but I felt kind of inspired to build some base game apartments since it's not something I've ever done before. And I don't know, I guess the multi-unit lot functionality kind of got me excited to build something with just the base game that you could use as such if you do have that pack, essentially. So that is what I did for this one, though I did not set it as a residential rental, of course, since that is not base game. But you can go ahead and download this, and if you do have that pack, then you can use it as a residential rental. If you don't have that pack, then you can still use it. It does have only 2 apartments, so it would be suitable for 2 households total. I was gonna do 4 apartments on one lot, but I don't know, I didn't like the size of them because this build, it's not that big, it's kind of small if anything, and I was trying to squeeze in 4 tinier apartments, which was gonna work and it was gonna be really cute, but the build itself and the surrounding area, there is this huge shared garden, and there is a fountain in the front of the build as well, and it just felt a little bit too grand for 4 tiny apartments. I feel like the whole vibe of the place would have been different for that to work. It should have been different for that to work. And because the vibe of the place is pretty grand and luxurious in a way, I thought it would be cool to do 2 bigger family apartments. So that's what I went with. We have an apartment on the ground floor and we have an apartment on the second floor or first floor, however you want to go about that. But yeah, there's essentially 2 family apartments and they're really spacious and quite luxurious. And I really, really like how they came out. Now, this build was kind of a struggle, not only because it's just base game, but also the shape of the house or the build. Essentially, it's just a square with a couple of bump outs, as you can see. And I actually found a sketch on Pinterest of this building. I didn't copy it exactly to a T. Oh, that's my cat's food dispenser. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I didn't really copy it literally one-on-one, but I did come pretty close. It is very close to the sketch that I found. And I chose that sketch because I thought it'd be a fun, little challenge for myself to try to see if I could make something interesting out of this building that was essentially just a square. But I really liked the vibes of it, and I thought it would look really, really cool in Willow Creek. And I haven't really done any apartment buildings or anything in Willow Creek yet, like I said already, so I was really inspired to do something like that, and I felt like this type of build would look pretty good here, and I feel like I was right. I think this looks kind of cool. Now, this was a struggle. I did definitely cut out some parts of the footage. It took me forever to figure out what brick I wanted to use, which is really weird because we only have so many choices in the base game, but for some reason it was difficult for me to figure out which wallpapers I wanted to use. The window situation actually was pretty difficult. It may not look like it because it looks very simple. It's just a square with windows all around. But for some reason, it was giving me a struggle for sure, but thankfully I figured it out and I really, really like how it ended up looking. I was most excited for the garden because the photo that I found had a beautiful garden on this side. Like I said already, the gardens for this house are shared, though there is a little closed off yard out front. That is just accessible for the people living in the downstairs apartment. The people in the downstairs apartment are very lucky. They have a door out front to a little closed off yard just for them. And then they have a door in the back as well that leads them to the shared beautiful grand backyard. They're pretty lucky in that sense. The people on the second floor just have a balcony out front, which is also kind of nice, but they don't have, of course, they don't have like direct access to the backyard. They'd have to go downstairs first through the front door. But it still works. And I don't know, I was very excited about how this came together. As you can see here, I'm trying to play around with the pathways and the yard and like the gardens, and it was definitely a little bit of a struggle. It was way more of a struggle than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be pretty simple to do this, since I did limit myself to using just the base game, which does really narrow it down, you know, all the choices, all the furniture, all the decorations and everything, really. So it definitely narrows it down. But at the same time, it was more of a struggle because of that, because I was just struggling to make it look good. I don't know, does anyone else feel that way? Like when you do builds and when you limit yourself to just the base game, I always think it's going to be simple because of the limited options, but it always ends up being a little bit more difficult because of that. And I don't know, I just struggle with just base game sometimes, but in the end, I feel like this really came together. I struggled most, I will say, with the interiors. That's when just the base game starts to become a real challenge, when you have those curtains and those rugs to work with, you know what I mean? I feel like we desperately need a base game update to give us more swatches for especially curtains and rugs. I feel like we definitely need that at this point in The Sims. That would be so appreciated. Or, you know, a kit with just rugs and curtains and like throw pillows, stuff like that, I think would be really cool. But honestly, a base game update would be even better. Like that would be so good, because I feel like the curtains we have in the game, the curtains and the rugs, are so outdated at this point, not only texture wise, but also just style wise. And some of them are really good, but I always end up using the same ones when I do just base game. There are a couple of staple rugs, I feel like, in The Sims, or in the base game. Actually, just one. Like, there's that one solid color rug that comes in a small version, a square version, and then a big version. I'm not sure if you know what I mean, but that one comes in like very neutral colors, and I definitely used it, I think, a bunch of times throughout this build as well. So you'll see that in a little bit, of course, but here you can see I am just working on the landscaping, and I was having so much fun with it. As soon as I figured out what exactly I wanted to do with the pathways and the flower patches and like just the shrubs and plants around, it really came to life for me, and I just had so much fun with it. And here you can see we have this front section that I closed off with hedges as well. I thought it'd be fun for the people downstairs. Like at this point, I thought I was going to do 2 or 4 smaller apartments. So I thought I was going to have an apartment on one side that would have a door to the garden out front. And then I was going to have another apartment that had this door out back. And then there's 2 more apartments upstairs, one with a balcony and one without. But I quickly kind of just like steered away from that idea. And I quickly decided that I wanted to do 2 bigger apartments, since as you can see at this point, the gardens are pretty grand. Like, it's kind of luxurious in a way. And then here for the grass, I really enjoyed this like mowed lawn effect that I did with the terrain paint. I was using darker grass terrain paint to kind of mimic the effect of a mowed lawn. Maybe the effect the terrain paint I use is a little bit too dark. I feel like maybe the contrast is a little bit too harsh. Looking back at it now, I could have used probably like a lighter color green, but I still really like it. Like, I feel like it makes sense for a fancy build like this. And I also decided to plonk a little greenhouse in the back. Since this lot is pretty big, I'm not exactly sure what size this lot is. I think it's a 40 by 50, I think is what it is, or a 30 by 40. I'm not exactly sure, but it is pretty big. Or maybe it's like a 40 by 40. Is it square? I'm not sure. We'll go into the game, of course, at the end of the speed build, and then I'll give you a tour of the build, and we'll look at it on the gallery and stuff, and we'll see the size of the lot, but it's pretty spacious. And I definitely, even though we have these big gardens, I definitely had a bit of space left here, so I decided to put a greenhouse in the back. I thought that would be so fun, and it'd be such a cool like meeting place with your neighbors if you do end up using or mixing and matching this with the For Rent expansion pack and you turn this into a residential rental. You'll see your neighbors out and about. It's one of my favorite things to do with that new lot functionality is to have a bunch of activities outside. So your neighbors will actually show up outside and they'll use all those activities, and it'll be like a fun meeting place, and you can just hang out with your neighbors and do activities together. I think that's so fun. And I feel like gardening is something that my neighbors tend to do a lot. Ever since For Rent came out, I've done a bunch of residential rentals, and I've actually done a fair bit of gameplay with them as well over on stream for the most part. And then also my Pack Legacy Challenge, of course, that I'm playing here on YouTube. We played in a residential rental for a little while there as well. But yeah, definitely on stream too. I'm playing Not So Berry. And it's just so fun to see your neighbors out and about. They use the gardening a lot. They use the workout equipment all the time. And then they also like to grill. Like if you want to lure your neighbors outside, like to the yard, put a grill. I'm telling you, all Sims want to do is grill, and they'll use that thing all day, every day, and so will your neighbors. It's kind of annoying, but also fun. Like I said, if you want to see your neighbors out there, put a grill. They'll be so happy. They'll be so thankful. Yeah, here you can see I am just playing around with some more terrain paint here, putting in some details. And I really like these completely useless little yards out front. I was really set on using a lot of hedges for this build, which is weird. I never use hedges. Like, it's my least used fence version, I feel. Like, I never use hedges for fences. I use hedges to like line my builds for like landscaping and decoration purposes, but never for like fences. And I did that for this build, and I feel like it's so cool. I did it because I saw it in the inspiration picture that I was using. That's literally where I got the idea from to do this. With the hedges and stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's so cool. It definitely adds to the build. It's something different for me. I've never really done anything like this, I feel. So yeah, it's definitely quite different. And like I said, I feel like it looks kind of good here in Willow Creek. I feel like it kind of fits the vibe. But at the same time, I have no clue what style this is. Maybe it says something on the image that I found on Pinterest, like the sketch. Maybe if I clicked on it and like gone to the actual website, like the source for the image, maybe it would have told me a little bit more about the build or like the style or whatever, like its origins. I'm not sure. I didn't do that. But if you know anything about architecture and if you're familiar with this kind of style that we're doing, if it rings a bell, please let me know, because I'm definitely very interested. But yeah, here we're moving on to the inside of the build. And of course, this is an apartment building, so we do have a shared front door, which is this little area here. So there's a front door into the shared hallway, and then there's a front door into the downstairs apartment, and then upstairs, like you go up the stairs, and then that's where we have the front door into the upstairs apartment, of course, which makes sense, I guess. And this is where the just base game struggle really started. This floor plan, you can kind of tell, like I cut out the floor plans because it took me forever with going from 4 small apartments to 2 bigger ones and then trying to figure out the bedroom situation and the layout and stuff. Like it definitely took me a long time. But yeah, here we have the first apartment, the downstairs one, and I was not sure what kind of color scheme I wanted to go for, so it took me forever to eventually put a wallpaper in. I was like, let me just get started on furnishing this thing, and then I'll think about the wallpaper a little bit later. I have this pink one now. I swapped it out for a different color in the end, I think. But this apartment is a bit weird in the sense that there's a lot of doors off of the living room space, because we do have 3 bedrooms. There's 3 bedrooms for each apartment, and then this downstairs apartment has 1 hall bathroom, and then the upstairs apartment has an ensuite to the main bedroom, and of course also a hall bathroom. So that one has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. But I was trying to go for a little bit of an older style for this build, which kind of goes hand in hand with just base game builds, I want to say, since, you know, the items we have in the base game are kind of outdated and not super modern. They're either, I feel like, kind of traditional and outdated, or they're weirdly extremely modern in an outdated way, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure. Like maybe stuff that we considered modern in 2014 clearly is just a bit weird now. I'm not exactly sure. Like I'm not really remembering what that time period was all about. Like decoration, like house decoration wise. I'm not exactly sure, but there's a lot of modern stuff. Like, I feel like this modern stuff we have in the Sims 4 base game is catered towards Oasis Springs, which is a more mid-century modern kind of vibe. So I feel like it's either Willow Creek, cozy, traditional, sort of outdated in a cute way, or it's mid-century modern, lots of glass, and also kind of outdated in a cute way for Oasis Springs, if you know what I'm saying. So that's kind of what I had to choose between. And for this one, clearly I went for the traditional, outdated, cozy vibe. And this living room space, like I said, is a bit odd because there is a bunch of doors into 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and they're all kind of on one side of the build, if that makes sense. And then on the other side of the build, we have this hallway into the kitchen, and the kitchen is actually really spacious. So I had a lot of space here for a nice, luxurious kitchen. Now, of course, I'm not using any packs, so I was very limited on clutter and decoration options when it comes to kitchens. But I tried my best, and also I feel like with just base game builds, it's kind of nice because you can really focus on the gameplay aspect of it all by not placing too much clutter and decorations, and really have everything be very simple, easy to put in your game, easy to use, not very cluttered. There's not going to be any routing issues or anything because it's not like cramped. It's actually very spacious, like in the way it's all set up. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be a good one for gameplay too. Even if you don't have residential rentals, you could still have maybe like one big household and divide them into like, just put them into, assign them to their own units, like their own apartments, essentially. And it could be really fun generations gameplay, really. Maybe you can have like the grandparents live in one apartment, the grandparents and like an uncle or aunt that never moved out, something like that. And then you can have like the parents and like the adults and the grandchildren, essentially. You could have that family live in the other apartment. I feel like that would be really, really fun to do. So you could definitely use it in that sense as well. And yeah, I didn't really have any specific Sims or storylines in mind for these apartments. They're pretty generic, just family apartments. I really wanted to try and make it family apartments where each age group is represented, essentially. So I think for this one, I built this one like not a long time ago, but a couple weeks ago at this point. So let's see if I remember this. For this room, or for this apartment, of course, we have the parents' room, we have a toddler's room or infant's room, and a kid's room, I believe. Yeah, I think it was infant and kid. And then for the apartment upstairs, we have the parents' room, a kid's room, and a teenager's bedroom. I wanted to do kids for both apartments because I thought it'd be fun for the 2 neighbor kids to like play outside together. I think that would be so adorable. I did put like the jungle gym thingy outside. I was trying the pirate boat thing that you mostly see in the parks in The Sims, like in the base game parks. They always have these pirate boats to play with, which I think is so cool. Like, it's such a cool like playground equipment kind of thing. And I definitely had the space for it, but it was a little bit too bulky outside. I didn't like it. And to be completely honest with you, I just didn't really like how it looked in the screenshots. So I decided to go for the jungle gym instead of the pirate ship. But like I said, there is space for it. So if you do end up downloading this, you can easily place that one as well, or swap the jungle gym out for the pirate ship, or have them both. Like, it definitely fits. But I think it'd be cool for the neighbor kids to like be best friends and they play outside together in their really big yard. And of course, if you have more packs, then you can play or put more toys and things outside as well. I think that'd be really cute. But yeah, the first bedroom that we're decorating is the parents' room, the main bedroom. And this one also had space for a little desk setup situation with a computer. So that's what I did. I initially placed a laptop on the living room, but I think I deleted that one since I did end up having space for a desk in the parents' room. I was like, let's not make this more expensive than it needs to be. So I deleted the laptop in the living room since it wasn't really necessary anymore. I think I did. Now I'm like doubting myself. I'm not sure if I did, but I think I did, or at least I meant to. We'll see if I actually did though. And then here we have the hall bathroom, of course, which is very simple, just a shower tub combo toilet. And then I did have space for like some counters in here, which I think is really nice. We had a bathroom sink and a mirror, and then just some clutter in here as well. Bathroom sinks actually is a thing that I feel like we really need in The Sims as well. Like we need more bathroom sinks. Ooh, the second bedroom was for a newborn, not an infant. Okay, so I decorated it for a newborn, soon to be infant, and then toddler. Of course, we all know how it goes. Yeah, I feel like we really need more bathroom sinks in this game. We have a lot of sinks, but yet it's not enough. But I feel like that's how it is with everything. We have a lot of rugs too, but it's never enough. We have a lot of curtains, but it's never enough. You know what I mean? But for sinks, I feel like we usually only ever get kitchen sinks whenever we do get new sinks, or it's like those standalone kinds of sinks that like the standalone kind of sinks that you just place in the bathrooms, but never the bathroom sinks that you are supposed to put in the countertop. We only ever get kitchen sinks for those, never really bathroom sinks. And it's kind of annoying because now we only have one, I feel like, proper bathroom sink that goes in a countertop. And it's a base game one, and it just looks very bulky and kind of, it's not pretty. I feel like we need more of those. I feel like the one that came with, what's it called? The Snowy Escape Pack. I use that one for bathrooms all the time because it has one of those lower sitting faucets as well. So I use that one all the time, but of course this is just a base game build, so I didn't have access to that specific sink from Snowy Escape. But here you can see, this is the second bedroom. The bedrooms for these houses, as luxurious as they kind of feel, the bedrooms aren't that big, which I kind of like. I was able to squeeze in everything I wanted, and I will say this downstairs apartment feels extra spacious because I was working with the medium wall height for the ground floor, and then the second floor has the regular like short wall height. But the ground floor feels a bit more spacious and luxurious because of that wall height situation. So yeah, that's why the feel is a bit different. And then here we are moving on to the second floor apartment, which I do think this is my favorite. This one feels a little bit less, what's the word? I want to say formal than the one downstairs. Even though it's a cozy, it's supposed to be like a cozy family apartment, both of them are. I feel like the one downstairs feels a bit more formal. Maybe it also has to do with the color scheme, and I do feel like the flooring that I'm using in here, the swatch of the flooring, the very warm orangey brown, really like helps warm up the place and make it feel more cozy and make it feel more like a warm hug, I want to say. So that's definitely what helped. And then I use the same couches because couches is one of those things, again, in base game that I just struggle with. There is only one couch that I really like in the base game, and it's this one. I do really like this one though. Even if I do have access to all my packs and I do a no limited pack build, I do use these couches a lot because I just feel like they're so realistic and so cozy and so homey looking, especially now that we have a couple of options for throw pillows that came with 2 different kits, I want to say. They work so nicely in especially this couch. And it's just very cozy and homey, like I said, and it's a couch that I really enjoy using. Green is also one of my favorite colors. So especially this like olive green kind of shade is one of my favorites, and I just think it's really cool and it looks so good combined with this color of the flooring that I'm using. Oh, right. I did an oopsie in this build. I cluttered up a little hallway space, but it was not the right door. That was not the front door. That was the door into the bathroom that I cluttered up to be like a little hallway section. So I quickly moved that over to the actual front door. And then I swapped around the living room. You can really tell that I was kind of struggling with this build because of like the door situation. It's a little bit less awkward for this one compared to the one downstairs, but still there is just a lot of doors. So I kind of have to take all that routing into account as I'm decorating the place. And for this one, it came together a little bit more naturally, but I did swap around the living room because the couches, like the opening of the couches, if that makes sense, was kind of facing towards the hallway door situation, and I swapped it around so that the couch faces like the window section. It like opens it up a little bit more. I feel like this makes way more sense. So So you can sit on the couch and actually just like look outside. I think that'd be nice. And here in this apartment, I also had space for a nice family computer setup. I don't know what it is, but whenever I do just base game builds, I always gravitate towards making it look very 90s inspired. I don't know why. Like early zeros, kind of 90s. It probably has something to do with the style of the items that come with base game, but that's just kind of where my brain goes. So every time I do a base game build, I'm like, ooh, we need a family computer in the living room, which in my opinion is so like 90s, like the early zeros. I'm not sure why. Maybe that's because back in the early zeros, that's what all my friends used to have. Like they used to have like family computers set up in the living room or in a hallway or like kind of that situation. So it brings me to that time period for some reason. Let me know, do you still have a family computer? Do you have a computer like set up in the living room, or is it just like an office space, or do you just have laptops now? Like, I'm not sure. Back in the day, I feel like laptops just weren't as common either. So if you did have a computer, it'd be a full-on PC. And then for most people, when I was like living in the zeros, that was like for most people, that was like a family setup kind of thing. So every time I do a base game build, that's kind of where my brain goes. And then I like to do that to fill up the space. Because of course, also base game just doesn't have as many activities and things to fill up the space with. So a family computer is what happens in my base game builds. But here we have another little closed off kitchen. Just like the one downstairs, but I picked a slightly different color scheme for this one. I really like the tiles I'm using for these kitchens and bathrooms, by the way. I'm using the same tile floors in both houses, like for the kitchens and the bathrooms. And it's like this white marble kind of thing. And I never use these tiles, but I feel like they're really pretty. And they're in this warm white kind of shade, which brings a lot of warmth into the place as well. And I just feel like it's really nice. This is that rug that I was talking about, by the way. This rug that I placed underneath the dining table, that's the one I mean. That's one of those staple base game rugs that I use all the time. Even if I'm not doing a restricted pack build, I will use that rug all the time, especially in that green shade that I used here in the kitchen, or that dark brown shade. If you build a lot, you probably know what I mean. It's a really good rug. It's not even necessarily very pretty. It's just very basic, and it goes with a lot of things that we have in the game because it's just so basic and the colors just kind of make sense that way. I don't know what it is. But here we are moving on to the parents' bedroom. And as you can see, I was trying to use a lot of white woods in here because of the white paneling on the wallpaper. I'm using a base game, of course, a base game wallpaper in here. This is one of the recently added extra swatches. I wanted to say recolors, but they're just like newly added swatches for this wallpaper that came with, I want to say Horse Ranch, I think is what it came with. And I'm still very much obsessed. Well, it didn't come with Horse Ranch, but it came with the update before Horse Ranch came out, if you know what I mean, like the base game update. I still am very much obsessed with these newly added swatches. They're really good. I use another one of those swatches in the teens room in that green, like that soft, dusty green kind of color, which I think is really pretty. But yes, I skipped over the bathrooms for this house, or did I? I skipped over the ensuite. I'm not sure if I skipped over the hall bath. We'll see. But here we have the kids' room, and this one is very pink. I was inspired to do a nice pink, like a classic pink and purple colorful kids' room in here. And I tried to fit in as many activities as I could. So of course, naturally, I use a lofted bed. I'm still very thankful that they added that to the base game, like the lofted beds. They're so useful for when you're building smaller homes, and they just add so much to a kid's room. I feel it just looks automatically so much more playful when you're using a lofted bed. So I was very excited about that. And that made it so that I had enough space for a desk underneath the bed. And I did that same thing for the downstairs kids room as well. So they're a little bit similar in that sense. But again, what are you going to do? I was just using the base game, so naturally I was repeating a couple of items. But then here we have a teens room, because I hadn't done a teens room for this build yet, so I felt like that'd be fun. I was definitely messing around with the floor plan or like the layout for this room as well. I don't know why, but it took me a little bit. And then I was also messing around with the color scheme. I find teens rooms to be the most challenging when I'm just using base game. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. Kids and toddlers have a lot of items that are just catered towards just them, like toys and things like that, and just like children stuff, like children's decorations. Teens are like that awkward, they're pretty much adults, but they're still in school, and so you don't want their rooms to look like an adult's room, but also not a kid's room. But in just the base game, we don't have a lot of stuff to kind of represent their hobbies or what they would be into. We just have like colorful swatches of things and backpacks and posters. So that's kind of what I try to use a lot of in this room, as you can see. And I was trying to make it very colorful. So I use a lot of purple and pink and orange in here, which is a color combination that I really, really enjoy. I feel like those colors like just look really good together generally. And so I decided to use those colors in here and kind of mismatch it in a way with this rug that also has some pink in it. I really liked this bedding that I was using with the like the planets and the space theme, essentially. I also put a pride flag to, you know, add some like a nice splash of color in there, which I thought was really cool. So I feel like all in all, that teens room came together pretty nicely, even though I was definitely struggling with it a little bit. And then here we have the balcony for the people living in this apartment. They only get a balcony. Of course, they have access to the beautiful shared gardens as well, but they'd have to go downstairs first. They don't have their own like back door staircase kind of situation. I just didn't really have the space for that. So they have to go like downstairs and use the front door for that, but I feel like that's okay. And then here I'm moving back to the outdoor spaces essentially. So this is that beautiful yard that the people downstairs have access to. It's closed off because I didn't want Sims to think that this was going to be their front door, if that makes sense. I still feel like maybe they'll think that the back door is their front door, but it's not. Everyone has to use the front like hallway as the front door, okay? So I feel like that is gonna take some setting up if you actually do end up using this build. For some reason, every time I build a house in The Sims and I go to playtest it, there's always a wrong door set as the front door. I don't know why, but it just never understands my builds. It never understands what I'm trying to do with the doors for some reason. But here you can see we're moving on to the backyard situation. This is shared. At first I wanted to close this off as well, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to give the people downstairs two closed off private yards. I'm not going to do it. So I turned this one into a shared space as well. We just have some loungers, a bench, and a lot of planters. There is a lot of planters in this entire build because, well, what else are you going to do with just base game, base game outdoor activities? You know what I mean? And here we have a nice backyard, like a side yard with a grill area. I thought that would be so cute. So I placed a couple of picnic tables and a grill. I also ended up putting in some, or at least one, I think it was 2 chess tables, which I feel like is really nice. It's essentially their own little park that they have access to, you know? That's kind of what it feels like. That's the kind of feel that I was trying to go for at least. So yeah, they have their own little park kind of outside their apartment building. And in my brain, like actual like people that don't live here, like Sims that don't live here would use this as a park as well. I feel like this, in real life, this would be like just a tiny community, like neighborhood little shared park situation, but it's on a lot, so it's part of the build. But I feel like realistically, that's what it would be. And then here we have a greenhouse, which is really small, but I was able to fit in some larger planters, so you can do some gardening in here. I also put in 2 handiness tables. Maybe I got rid of one, I'm not exactly sure, but I put in a couple of handiness tables as a nice activity for your Sims to do as well, a nice helpful skill building item. And then we also have a telescope out back somewhere, so that's a good skill building item as well. But that's essentially it. So let's jump into the game and I'll show you the build in real time. So here we have the apartment building in the game. I definitely feel like it looks pretty grand and luxurious, which is exactly the vibe that I was trying to go for. We have this like fountain situation outside, which I think is really, really cute. I love these little fountains. I never use this fountain tool anymore, but I feel like it adds a lot to this build. And then we also have these little yards that don't really have any functionality to them, but it does look cute. You could put some benches here if you wanted to, but I decided to just put one out here by the fountain. And then over here is the shared little park area, which I think is really cute. We have a couple of chess tables here, some umbrella tables, there are some picnic tables here, and a grill as well. And the mowed lawn, I feel like adds a lot to the whole vibe of this place. Then over here in this area, this is where we have the greenhouse. I'm loving this glass roof here. The pattern is just so beautiful. So in this greenhouse, we of course have a couple of planters, so your Sims can do some joint gardening here. And there are also 2 handiness tables, so your Sims can work on their handiness skill. And then over here is another yard area with even more planters, more benches, and a couple of loungers. And out back here are even more planters. So I hope your Sims enjoy gardening if you're going to move into this house or this apartment, because there's a lot of that to be done. And then we also have the jungle gym out here, of course. And then over here is the closed off private front yard. So the people living in the downstairs unit have their own grill and dining table set up. And they have a telescope as well. So that's really cute. But then moving on to the inside. So this is the shared front door. And then you enter into this hallway space with a little community cork board over here. And then this is the front door into the downstairs apartment. We have my Sim, my playtester Sim, Penny Pizzazz. She's just hanging out watching some TV, as my playtester Sims always seem to be doing. They just love watching TV. But yeah, you kind of enter just straight into this open dining and living room situation. Like I said, the layout for this is a little awkward because we just have a lot of doors. That's just how it worked out, of course, for this layout. But yeah, there's a lot of doors. But there is this nice living room space here, and then a nice 6-seater dining table. And this archway leads you into the pretty massive kitchen. That's kind of luxurious if you ask me. Like, that's nice. They have a nice kitchen island, a stove, a sink, of course, a fridge in the corner, and I used as much kitchen clutter as I could find in the base game, which is not a lot, but I still feel like it looks lived in. And then they have a nice breakfast table over here, so they definitely have enough areas to like sit down and eat or work, have a cup of tea. You know, there's a lot of tables around. Over here is the one and only bathroom of this apartment. So it is a nice hall bathroom with a shower tub combo, a toilet, and some counter space. And then over here is the parents' room / office. The color scheme in here is a bit softer. We have like this nice pink toned wallpaper, and it's a little darker in here. There is a dresser, some nice artworks, and of course their double bed. Next to the parents' room is the newborn baby's room for easy access. You know, I felt like that would be realistic. It's also the smallest room. This bedroom is really, really small. So you could just break down this wall and turn these 2 bedrooms into one bigger one if you wanted to, but I just wanted to squeeze in as many bedrooms as I could to make it like a real family apartment. So I just went for a really small bedroom in here, which would still work with an actual single bed. It would just be a little cramped. But next to the newborn baby's room, we have the kids' room, which is very blue and orange and colorful. So there is a lofted bed here, a desk, and then the necessary toys. And then we're moving on to the second apartment. So there's this open staircase, which I always feel like opens up the space so nicely and immediately makes it feel more grand, in my opinion. So they have their little front door over here. And this apartment, this is definitely my favorite. I don't know, this one just feels more cozy to me. Probably because of the colors that I'm using. I wanted these 2 apartments to feel very different from each other, and I think I succeeded with that. So over here we have this living room setup. I use a lot of white wood tones to combine with this orangey wooden flooring. I feel like they really complement each other nicely. So yeah, this is their living room setup. They have a little entryway space over here as well, a bookcase, and then my favorite family computer. And then through this archway here is where we have the kitchen and dining. So this apartment also just, it feels smaller. It's not really smaller, but it definitely feels a little smaller in the way it's set up, I feel. So their kitchen and dining is in one space, and they just have this nice U-shaped kitchen, which feels cozy, and there is a little bit of clutter here, and I love that the dining table is just like in the middle of the room. I feel like that makes sense and just pulls it all together nicely. And then off of the kitchen, they have a little balcony here with their outdoor bin and a nice lounge setup. Over here is the hall bathroom, which is a little bit awkward in the way it's set up, but I feel like this makes sense. There is a nice shower tub combo, a toilet, and a sink, of course. And then over here is the parents' bedroom. So I love the splash of blue wallpaper in here. I feel like that is so nice. They just have their dresser here, and then they have a really small ensuite with just a shower and a sink and a toilet, but it's nice for them to have that. Next to the parents' bedroom is the kids' room. This one is really pink and I love it. It is super matchy-matchy, which is just, I feel like what naturally happens when you use just base game, but I really like it for this room. It's so playful and colorful and cozy. And then next to the kids' room is the teens' room, which I also feel like turned out pretty fun and colorful. So this one's a bit more empty. There's a little bit more space for routing here, but they have their bed and like some posters put up in a playful way. And this one uses a lot of colors too, which I feel like is nice. They also have their desk set up, and I gave them a Freezer Bunny guitar. I thought that would be a fun activity for a teen, but that is basically it for this apartment building. So these base game apartments are up on the gallery as a residential lot, and it was built on a 40 by 30 in the world of Willow Creek, which is the lot basically almost across from the Goths, if you know what I mean. The Goths are essentially diagonally across from this house, if that makes any sense. So if you want to place it in your game, then that is where this lot goes. But that's going to do it for today's video. So I really hope that you enjoyed this build. You can obviously go ahead and download it off the gallery, like I just showed you. My username on the gallery is Simmary Sims. You can follow me on Instagram and on TikTok if you'd like. My username on there is Simmary Sims as well. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to get notified of every single time I upload a video, just click that little bell icon and you should be fine. I also live stream over on Twitch a few times a week. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and give me a follow over on twitch.tv/Simmary Sims. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!